Welcome to Wealth Building Wednesday, and this month every episode is built around one idea: permission to prosper. Today I want to start with a question. If you make good money, why doesn't it feel like it? Answer: because there's one number that quietly decides whether all of your work is actually turning into something, and almost nobody was ever taught to look at it. Almost all of us have one money number we can recite without thinking: what we make. Salary, rate, what the business brought in. We've been answering that question our whole adult lives. But there's a second number, and most people have never once been asked for it. Not, how much do you make? How much do you keep? Because those are two completely different numbers, and only one of them is actually building your life. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what that second number is. Walk you through a real person's finances so you can watch it happen line by line, and then give you the process to find your own. Stay with me, because the part most people miss isn't the math. It's why we were never taught to look. This is Darius. He owns a heating and air company. 6 years in, 3 trucks on the road, a phone that will not stop ringing. Last year, his household brought in $180,000. And if you asked him how he's doing financially, he'd tell you the truth. He honestly doesn't know. When people hear that number, they react the same way. Man, you're doing good. And Darius smiles and says thank you. Because what else are you going to say? But there's a gap between what that number looks like from the outside and what his Tuesday actually feels like. This month, we've been talking about giving yourself permission to prosper. And here's the part people skip. Permission isn't just a feeling. Permission is measurable. If you never look at whether you're actually building anything, you can spend 20 years working hard and still never let yourself believe you're allowed to have more. So today, we're going to look, honestly, at one number. Here's Darius's actual Tuesday. 2 jobs invoiced, $4,000 collected, and by Thursday afternoon, the account is back down under $1,000. Nothing went wrong, no emergency, no bad decision. The money just had somewhere else to be. If you just recognized yourself, join the crowd. Some of the most disciplined, hardest-working people I have ever sat across from have this exact problem. It isn't for lack of trying. It's a cash flow problem. Money comes in, money goes right back out, and there's nothing standing in the middle to catch any of it on the way through. You can work harder every single year and still not be able to point to where it landed, because it didn't land anywhere. Think about how we were all taught to keep score. What's your salary? What did the business gross? What's the hourly rate? Every question we ask about money is a question about flow. Almost nobody asks the other one. What do you have left standing after the flow goes through? So let me give you the picture I use with clients, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Your income is a river. It moves fast, it's loud, and it feels like abundance when it's running. Your net worth is a lake, quiet, slow. It only rises when some of that river gets diverted into it instead of rushing straight past. And here's the uncomfortable part. A very wide river can run right by a completely empty lake bed for years. Net worth is not complicated. It is everything you own minus everything you owe. That's it. One subtraction. There's no certification required, no software you have to buy. If you can write 2 columns on a sheet of paper, you can calculate it, and most people never have. Now, why does this one number matter so much more than the paycheck? Because it's the only number that can't be performed. You can look like anything on a Saturday. You can drive anything, but net worth doesn't care what it looks like. It only records what actually stayed. It is the single most honest sentence your money can say about you. So let's do it with Darius. Real numbers, nothing hidden. And I want you to notice something as we go. Nothing on this list is unusual. There's no scandal here. This is an ordinary, hard-working American balance sheet. What he owns: $8,500 in the bank between personal and business. $12,000 in a retirement account he opened 3 years ago and hasn't touched since. The work truck, he owes on it, but it's worth about $46,000 today. And the house, worth around $310,000. Add it up. $376,500 in assets. That is a real number. That is not nothing. Now the other column. And this is the one most of us don't write down because we carry it in pieces. Truck loan, $52,000. Mortgage, $288,000. Credit cards, $21,000. Equipment lease payoff, $14,000. Business loan, $9,500. Total owed, $384,500. So $376,500 minus $384,500. Darius's net worth is negative $8,000. On a $180,000 income, 6 years of getting up before the sun, and the scoreboard he'd never turned on says he's $8,000 behind zero. I want to be careful here, because this is the moment where a lot of people would make Darius the punchline. I'm not going to do that, because Darius didn't fail. Darius was never given the second scoreboard. Nobody handed him this sheet of paper at 18. He did exactly what he was taught to do. Earn more, and it worked, and he still ended up here. So where did $180,000 a year go? It didn't vanish, and nobody stole it. A large piece of it was already spoken for before the month even started, signed for months ago, some of it years ago, and now it leaves on schedule whether he thinks about it or not. I want to name that carefully, because it's a different problem than overspending and it needs a different fix. Truck payment, $1,090. Equipment lease, $640. Credit card minimums, $525. 2 device plans, $145. $2,400 a month. $28,800 a year. Now here's the part I need you to hear correctly, because a lot of people get this wrong and it costs them. That $2,400 is not a leak. He owes every dollar of it. Those are signed agreements with dates on them. A leak is money you can't account for. This is money that's already accounted for, which is exactly why the month feels tight before it even begins. And remember Tuesday? $4,000 in, under $1,000 by Thursday afternoon. The $2,400 didn't do all of that. The $2,400 leaves on schedule. What disappeared was the money nobody had put a name on. That's the actual leak. And hold on to that, because in a few minutes, it becomes the whole plan. Here's the distinction that changes everything, and I want to give it to you in the simplest language I have. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. That's the whole test. Not what it's called, not what the salesman called it. Which direction is the arrow pointing? Now watch what that does to the truck. On paper, the truck is an asset. It's worth $46,000. But he owes $52,000 on it, and it drops in value every month while he pays for it. So the arrow on that truck points out of his pocket in 2 directions at once. The payment leaves and the value leaves. That's not a scam. That's just what a vehicle is. But you have to know it's happening. And this is where I have to say the honest thing. Looking rich and being wealthy are 2 entirely different projects. They cost different things, they take different amounts of time, and they produce completely opposite results. Looking rich is expensive and fast. Being wealthy is quiet and slow. Most people are unknowingly funding the first one with money that was supposed to build the second one. And it's easy to confuse them, because one of them is visible and one of them isn't. You can see a car in a driveway. You cannot see a brokerage account. You can see a renovated kitchen. You cannot see the fact that somebody's mortgage is nearly paid off. We are all walking around making judgments about wealth using only the evidence that was designed to be seen. But let's go one layer deeper, because the numbers are the easy part. Underneath all of this is a belief, and the belief goes something like this. When I finally make enough, I'll start building. So the building always lives in the future. And because it lives in the future, every raise gets absorbed by the present. That's not a budgeting failure. That's a story about when you're allowed to begin. And for a lot of people, especially people who came up without much, there's something else in there too. Spending feels like proof that the work meant something, proof to the people who watched you struggle. I understand that. I'm not going to pretend that impulse is silly, But I'd ask you to consider that keeping is also proof. Quieter proof. Proof that lasts longer than the thing you bought. When Darius saw -8,000, he didn't get upset. He said something I've heard 100 times in that chair. He said, "At least now I know what I'm working with." That's the whole point of this exercise. Not shame, orientation. You can't navigate from a location you refuse to name. Before we go further, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me honestly, had you ever calculated your net worth before today? Not the number, just yes or no. I think the answer is going to surprise a lot of people watching. Now I want to meet Yvonne. Yvonne works in school administration. She makes $68,000 a year, well under half of what Darius makes. She drives a 9-year-old sedan, and her net worth is $214,000. Here's her sheet. What she owns: a home worth $240,000, $96,000 in retirement, $18,000 in cash, $354,000 in assets. What she owes: a mortgage of $132,000 and $8,000 left on the car, $140,000. Subtract and you get $214,000. So look at these two side by side. Darius earns almost 3 times what Yvonne earns, and Yvonne is $222,000 ahead of him. If income were the scoreboard, this result would be impossible. It's only possible because income was never the scoreboard. And I want to be really clear about what this is not. Yvonne is not smarter than Darius. She's not more disciplined by nature. The difference is that at some point somebody showed her how to navigate, and she started checking it. That's it. She's been looking at a number he's never seen. So how do you actually change the direction? You take money that is currently flowing out, and you point some of it at something that flows back in. That's the entire mechanic. You are not being asked to earn more. You are being asked to redirect, and redirecting is available to you today, at whatever income you're at right now. And let's be specific, because income-producing asset is one of those phrases that sounds like it requires a suit. It doesn't. Retirement contributions, an index fund, paying down a high-interest card. Yes, that counts, because every dollar of interest you stop paying is a dollar back in your pocket. Equipment that lets your business bill more hours, a skill or certification that raises your rate. Any of those turn the arrow around. Before I show you how Darius redirected his money, I have to stop on that word for a second. Redirect. I've said it twice now, and I need to make sure you're hearing what I'm actually saying. Because when somebody says redirect, a lot of people hear, "Don't pay your truck note." So let me be plain about this. You never redirect a payment you owe. Missing a truck payment to buy an index fund is not investing. That's a repossession with extra steps. The rule is that you redirect money that was never assigned to anything in the first place. And there are 4 honest places that money comes from. 1, the unassigned money. What's already gone by Thursday and you couldn't tell me where it went. That's the biggest one, and almost everybody has some. 2, roll-offs. When something ends, a device plan finishes, a lease matures, a card hits 0. Keep making that payment, but make it to yourself. That's the safest dollar in personal finance because you'd already stopped missing it. 3, renegotiation. Refinance the truck, restructure the lease, call and ask for a lower rate. That's the only one that actually lowers something you owe, and it takes a phone call, not a skipped bill. 4, freed up interest. As the balances come down, the minimums come down, and that difference is brand new money that cost you nothing. Every minimum, every month, no exceptions. Then you build. So here's what Darius actually did. He didn't sell the truck, he didn't blow up his life, and he did not touch the $2,400. Every one of those payments went out in full, on time, every single month. What he did instead was go find the money that had no name on it. When he sat down and wrote out what came in and what was already committed, there was about $1,580 a month sitting unassigned. That's the money that used to be gone by Thursday. So he gave $1,100 of it a job, $400 into an investment account, $700 straight at the credit cards, and he left the rest alone. on purpose. I want to explain why he left $480 sitting there, because this is where most plans die. If he'd swept every last unassigned dollar into investing, he'd have lasted about 6 weeks and then quit and felt like a failure. A plan you abandon in February is worth less than a smaller plan you're still running in December. But there's a second reason, and it's the more important one. Before he put a single dollar into an investment account, he let a little cash pile up. Even $1,000. Here's why that matters more than it sounds. Without it, the first time a water heater goes out or the truck needs brakes, that repair goes on a credit card at 24%, and 6 months of progress disappears in an afternoon. That's the step almost every plan skips, and it's the reason most of them die in month 3. Buffer first, then invest. Now let me show you what that $400 a month investment is actually worth, because this is the part that changed how Darius saw it. $400 a month at a 7% average return for 20 years is about $208,000. He puts in $96,000 of that. The other $112,000 is growth. That money worked while he slept, and it came from a truck payment he was already making. So here's how you do this yourself. Step 1. 1 sheet of paper, left column. Cash in every account. Retirement and investments. Your home, if you own it, at what it would actually sell for. Vehicles at what they'd actually sell for, not what you paid. Money customers still owe you. Add it up. Step 2. Right column. Mortgage balance. Car and truck loans. Every credit card. Student loans, business loans, and lines of credit. Lease payoffs. Anything you owe a person. Write the whole number, not the payment. This is the step people flinch at, and it's the step that does the work. Step 3. Subtract the right column from the left. Write the answer down, and this part matters. Write today's date next to it, because the number by itself means very little. The number with a date beside it becomes a starting line. Step 4. Pick 1 day a month, the 1st, the 15th, whatever you'll remember, and do it again. 15 minutes, same day, every month. This is the habit that quietly turns into wealth, and almost nobody does it, which is exactly why it works so well for the people who do. And step 5 is really a mindset instruction. Do not judge the size of the number, judge the direction of it. A person going from -12,000 to -9,000 is doing better work than someone sitting flat at 400,000. Direction is the whole game. 3 mistakes I see constantly, so you can skip them. 1. Valuing things at what you paid instead of what they'd sell for. 2. Leaving off a debt because you're embarrassed by it. The sheet is not judging you, and the debt is there whether you write it or not. 3. Checking it every day. This is a slow number. Watching it daily will only make you anxious. So let's come back to Darius 12 months later. Same income, same truck, same house. Cash is up to $10,500. His investment account is at $17,600. The truck has depreciated to $38,000, and the house is at $316,000. Total assets, $382,100. And the other column came down. Truck loan, $43,000. Mortgage, $282,800. Credit cards down from $21,000 to $12,600. Lease payoff, $6,800. Business loan, $5,300. $350,500, which means his net worth is now positive $31,600. From -8,000 to positive $31,600. That is a $39,600 swing in 1 year on the exact same income he'd been earning for years. No new clients, no raise. He just stopped letting the river run past the lake. And here's what I want you to take from that. Nothing dramatic happened. Nobody got rescued. What changed was that he started measuring the thing he wanted to grow. That's the deeper truth underneath all of this. You cannot build what you refuse to look at, and you will almost always improve the number you agree to watch. And that brings us back to where we started this month. Permission to prosper isn't a feeling you wait to arrive. It's a decision you make in a very unglamorous way, by writing 2 columns on a sheet of paper and being willing to see what's true. You are allowed to build something. You're allowed to keep some of what you earn. And you're allowed to start from a negative number, because most people who end up with something started exactly there. So here is the only thing I'm asking you to do today. 1 number. Everything you own minus everything you owe. Write it down with the date. Don't fix anything yet. Don't feel anything about it yet. Just find out where you're standing, and then come back in 30 days and find out again. And if you do that exercise and the number tells you something you don't know how to act on, don't guess. Click the link in the description below to schedule an appointment and find out how TLJ can help you organize your numbers, understand what they're actually telling you, and build a plan you can keep. If you're building on the business side, that's exactly the work we do in a financial review. Until next time.